There's a brand new tech tree line in World of Tanks console leading up to the French super heavies which are already in the game. However, there's been a new set of vehicles from tier 2 all the way up to tier 7, and in today's video we're going to take a look at what these tanks can do, as well as showcase off some gameplay from the tier 6 in the line, which I think will probably be the better vehicle out of them all. We are just a couple thousand XP away from the tier 7 vehicle, and then fully having already unlocked the tier 8 and tier 9 and very close to being able to get the tier 10. We should be able to give you a good review of whether or not you should actually grind these tanks and the nuances between these tanks versus just the standard traditional tier 7, tier 6 heavy tanks that you can get in the normal line. Are they better? The short answer, no. And there's a reason why, but there's also a reason why you'll want to still play these vehicles, why they are a ton of fun, and that comes down to two things. It's the turrets. They have double turrets, and not only do they have double turrets, they allow you to fire both turrets at the exact same time, allowing you to deal both shots at the exact same time. Surprise, surprise. And so with that being said, obviously these new tanks are very weird. They don't look like your traditional heavy vehicles. They have rear mounted turrets. They also have a front mounted small main armament which does a minimal amount of damage, and to be honest doesn't really add a whole lot to the vehicle, and is only really useful against lightly armoured vehicles, things like light tanks or maybe mediums that have no armour, that sort of thing. But down at tier 6 it does have considerably less armor on pretty much all vehicles, so even with the penetration values that you do get with the secondary, which is 45 pen on the standard ammunition, dealing 55 damage, so not a lot. It doesn't have good accuracy, but it just adds an extra amount of damage that you can deal when you do fire that main armament. Now, this tank has two top tier kind of choices that you can pick with the tank. You have a 90mm and you've got a 105mm. Now, both of these have the positives and negatives of choosing either one. The 105 is probably the thing that I would choose personally as the person playing, and for both enjoyment and because these tanks aren't going to be the most competitive. The surprise, surprise, these tanks are not going to be the most competitive. They are super heavy vehicles, meaning that they are not particularly very fast, and given the games that I've played in them, they don't particularly have the most amount of armor either. So even when we look at the strong parts of the armor, so things like the turret, it's not particularly very good because you can be penned as soon as you angle your turret either way. So whichever way you're looking this turret, it doesn't really bounce a whole lot. And whilst it doesn't have a cupola on the top of the turret, it can bounce a few rounds. It is possible to bounce this rounds in tier 6 games because 140mm angled like it is possible to bounce. On the left hand side of the cupola, however, or the mantler of the vehicle, you'll see that there is a flat plate. Now, hopefully, because I'm using the stream, you can see my mouse. And so you see this plate right here? This is going to be a pain in your backside when playing these vehicles, because this plate is flat and it is 140mm thick, meaning pretty much everyone, as long as they find this flat plate, is going to pen you. If we angle to this side, this plate right here, this kind of oblong looking thing, is going to be penned by pretty much everyone. If you angle to the other side, this also big plate to the side is going to be penned by everyone. If you go side on, this plate is going to be penned by everyone. And so there's not a real optimal angle for the turret other than just facing directly at the opponent that is potentially going to shoot at you. The top of the tank is not really going to be penned. There's no cupola that they can actually pen through. But you also have this small miniature main armament as well on the front. As you see, this gigantic droid, much like the KV-5, this does actually have a cupola, and this can be penned, and it will be penned, and so if they can see your turret, they can most likely see the gigantic huge box of hit points that is this turret on the front. And whilst it does pack a punch itself and you can deal damage with it, it's not going to pen most tanks that you'll be facing in a super heavy at the front when they can see this very easily. So yeah, this thing is going to get penned every single time through this kind of cupola on the top of this. So if we look at it, it's this region at the top. So yeah, you're going to get penned pretty much every time. It's only 100 millimeters thick, which means even standard rounds of most vehicles can pen it every single time. And whilst the front flat portion is 120 millimeters, it's not really going to be bouncing a whole lot. And even then, it also has a huge hitbox to the right hand side of these bobbles. So if we have a look, it's got a big flat plate to the side of where this mantler is. And so this is going to get penned, this front portion is going to be penned, and then you've also got a gigantic flat plate on the so-called upper plate, which is this giant hitbox of hit points that people are going to steal right here as well. And then you also have a flat bar, which you can see right here where these front toe hooks come on, and so you're going to get penned quite easily here. And so yeah, this tank has not got the best armor for a super heavy vehicle, as you can expect at tier 6. No heavy tanks really have armor at tier 6, other than if you do manage to side scrape, which this tank can definitely side scrape. And in fact, when you're coming around a corner, because the turret is predominantly focused more over to the left, it's not centralized on this tank, you can basically side scrape without exposing this turret at all. So the ideal angle would be something like this, where you can expose the side of your vehicle and you move the turret in line so it would be looking directly at what the camera is right now. That would be a perfect side scraping opportunity, and you can definitely bounce rounds from that kind of distance, allowing you to play the tank as a super heavy and get damage that way. And so yeah, the armor can work, but it's quite nuanced in how you get it to work. And if you think that it's just going to be a roll forward and bounce everything, well, you'd be very, very wrong. And so don't go doing that. The other thing to also mention with this tank is that you also have this turret ring. And as with a lot of these rear mounted vehicles, they do have turret rings, which are a very, very painful experience for anyone that's gone through the rear mounted turret gameplay, which is this kind of slab underneath of where the turret is, the turret ring, obviously, which is 120 millimeters thick. You see this ring on the back end. This is where you're going to get penned, because if anyone has any level of intelligence within their gameplay that they're playing, they can pen this really reliably, because this is quite chunky, it's quite big, it's not a small little tiny weak point that maybe you RNG get it, maybe you don't. At the sort of ranges where you'll be fighting where this becomes the main weak point which people are firing when you are side scraping, this is going to be the place where people can pen you, and you can pen it. So aiming here is going to be a guaranteed pen. The only way that you can really counter it and actually deal damage every time is if you hit it directly at a 90-degree angle. As with every circle, you can always be perpendicular at 90 degrees to the circle itself, unless it's obviously got a slight angle to the circle in the first place. So you are going to be able to pen this quite easily, because at this angle, oh, I'll just hit it right here, somewhere about here. This is where we're going to be able to pen. Oh, I turn again. Oh, this angle. This is going to be the best place to pen it. Basically, you're looking for the center of the circle, and you can do that at whatever angle you're at. Because it's a circular object, it is slightly staggered, so there's lots of plates that are kind of faceted together to form the circle, so it's not 100% like a pure circle, but it is basically. So as long as you're aiming at the center of this circle from whatever angle that you can see it, you'll pen it with 125 millimeters of penetration, which if we look at most tier 6 vehicles, they are going to have 125 millimeters of pen. So it's basically a guaranteed weak point for anyone that's playing it. It's very noticeable. It's not like hidden away. It's not like it's hard to see either. It is very, very predominant and prevalent on all of these tanks as well. So you are going to get penned quite easily. But with all of the negatives out of the way, what makes these tanks actually special? Because you're probably thinking, oh god, this looks like a diabolical tank that no one wants to play. Well, it does have 330 premium penetration. And this is the best type of premium round, because it not only gets more pen, but it also gets more damage. And so anyone firing standard rounds with the 105 from the French line, that also features the AMX, or what's it called? The ARL V39, which is also a French tank destroyer. I think I've got it here. This also has the same main armament. And this does 330 damage with the same gun, basically. It's the exact same. It literally is the exact same. This thing is crazy good. It has more DPM, obviously, because it's a tank destroyer. This tank does not have good DPM compared to the other. It's got 1851. That's also without a commander and without me putting any extra things on, like the equipment slots and rearranging and putting vents on. Basically, what we've got here with the heavy tank is the maximum DPM you can possibly achieve, 1851. So it's not that great. But you do get the small turret, which can add a little bit of DPM on there, should you be able to pen someone, which, once again, probably not going to happen. Yeah, it definitely feels like that as well. So, why play it? Well, it's because it's a chunky mess of a vehicle. It is fun to play because it's so weird, it's so nuanced, and when you can get it working and you figure out how to make it work by side scraping, like we said, hiding that frontal turret, being able to maneuver, which it doesn't actually feel too sluggish in the game, this tier 6 anyway. 11.5 power to weight ratio, so you're not getting anywhere fast. I'm not going to tell you this is going to be able to reposition super easily. It isn't, but it's not like mega slug. It doesn't feel like a slug. It doesn't feel like you are really hindered that much, but it's fun. And that is, I think, something that we've lost from a lot of the recent tanks that have been introduced, which basically just like copy and paste of, oh, give it high DPM, give it good speed, give it a little bit of turret armor, and then there you go. It's going to be a good tank and people will play it. This says, you know what? Screw all of that BS. I'm going to make it as weird as possible. And that is exactly what's happened. And it almost feels like a TOG 2. It's that sort of gameplay style, and it makes it a ton of fun. And I think that that is something that can't be understated on the game. It is not a competitive tank, but it is fun. And so if we want to maximize what this tank can do, so that you can still perform, like, it's not a terrible tank by any means because of that 330 damage. Now that's why I'm saying the 330 of the 105 is going to be better than the 240 of the 90mm, because you don't get a huge amount of rate of fire increase by going for the 90mm. You sacrifice 0.02 accuracy, which in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. You get better standard penetration, so it is probably the one that people will use to save money, because you basically have nearly the same premium penetration as the 105, but you're dealing 90 less damage, and you aren't necessarily getting anywhere near the amount of damage extra that you would get from the 105 overall in terms of your DPM. So you actually lose DPM because your reload goes like slightly lower, but the damage also loses 90. So you're losing nearly 40% of your damage off of each round that you're firing. And as a heavy tank where you're trying to pack a hole in people and not expose yourself all of the time to be able to keep on dealing damage, the 105 really does that well. And I think that because of the 105, it opens up the audience. Like, you don't have to be as skilled of a player because you're dealing more damage in a shot, so 330 allows you to do that. Whereas the 90mm, it's going to need you to have more situational awareness, which you would think is somewhat common on this game, but it isn't, trust me. So for the average player, I think the 105 is a 100% way to go. But that being said, the 90mm is a good option as well. The only thing is the premium rounds. They are relatively expensive. They are 4,000 silver per game. And even if you have a good game, if you've been firing exclusive premium the entire time and you maybe don't know the weak points of other vehicles, you're probably going to lose quite a bit of money even firing the premium rounds, even if you pen quite a lot of them. So it is not a tank to be earning silver. You are probably going to lose silver. And so that puts it in the realms of you play it when you want a bit of fun and you sacrifice some of your silver. That is what it is. And yeah, this is perfectly fine. It's one of those tanks, that's what your silver's for, and you're not losing hundreds of thousands of silver a game. It might be 20,000 silver if you have premium time. If you don't have premium time, it's 30,000 silver, something like that. It's not overwhelmingly disgusting or anything like that. And if you have a good game, like, you know, you're dealing 2,000 damage, you'll probably still make a little bit of silver anyway. So yeah, it really isn't too bad in terms of the silver drain when you play this tank in specific. So equipment wise, we are boosting up our DPM with gun rammer. We are using improved ventilation, we're using stabilizer, and we're using turbocharger. The speed boost that turbocharger gives you goes nicely with the stabilizer in order to allow you to have better accuracy overall. Accuracy definitely going to be needed on this tank. It isn't the greatest as standard, so let's boost that up. Definitely needed, especially when we get the extra speed, because then you're going to get slightly better horsepower, and that's going to allow you to move slightly faster. And when you're doing that, you're going to have bigger bloom, so the stabilizer counteracts that. You've also then got ventilation to improve our accuracy, our DPM, our view range, stuff like that. Everything basically by a small margin, nothing major in each singular slot, but it is a 5% increase over all of the different areas of your vehicle. So that is a nice boost to that. And then obviously rammer is just going to boost our DPM by 7.5%, not 10% anymore. So yeah, really, really, really good kind of setup. Is there an alternative? Could you go with coated optics? Well, you could, but I don't know. You're playing this more as a super heavy, so you kind of think, well, the fun aspect of this tank is going to be that I can slap people for big amounts of damage, and I can get up close and personal with them, and I'm going to have better accuracy. You're not trying to snipe with this tank, you're not trying to remain undetected during the whole game, and you're probably going to be quite far forward anyway, where you do just generally spot people anyway, so an extra 10% to the view range, maybe it's worth it, maybe it isn't. I would probably swap off something like Vents to go for coated optics if I really wanted to, but Vents is giving you a slight boost to your view range anyway, so it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. And we can make up for the lack of view range in our skills, going for situational awareness to boost up our view range that way instead. And then we've got Born Leader, we've got Run and Gun for extra accuracy, Camo Expertise just to boost our camo up a little bit, helps us remain undetected slightly. It's not going to stop you from being detected, but it might change the differentiation between when you get spotted and when they do, like the difference in when you're actually going to get spotted and when they get spotted, so it helps you out a little bit. Snapshot for extra accuracy when you're moving the turret, which is quite often, and then we've got Armor Angling to reduce the damage that we're taking by 5%. In a super heavy where you've got more health than a lot of the other tier 6 heavies, it's going to help. And then radio jamming just to reduce how long we're spotted for. We don't want to be out in the open for ages spotted, because yeah, people will find ways to counteract what you're doing, so that's almost a must. And then off-road driving is going to increase our handling and on both medium and soft terrain, which means we can maintain our speed slightly and we can turn faster, so you're not as sluggish. And then Expert Gunner just for increased damage when we're firing our shells, which already have quite big damage for the tier that we're playing, and they're going to deal more module damage. So let's have a look and see if we can get some ammo racks when you're playing a tank like this, as well as, you know, you're going to be destroying their turrets, you're going to be destroying their tracks easily. And it also decreases how the penetration goes over distance, which is really nice considering we're using APCR rounds, which do have quite a drop off compared to, you know, your other rounds like Heat or whatever. So 223 down to 186 at 500 meters, and then if we're using our standard, it's 165 down to 145. So it's quite a big difference when you're using APCR. So if we can stop that as much as possible, that's going to be a benefit as well, alongside getting the extra damage to modules and everything. So yeah, that's how I run this tank. Let's jump into some gameplay now, showcase of what the tank can do, and yeah, let's have some fun. Right, so first gameplay is on Sand River. The map is okay for the tank generally, because we can go down the center of the map, and when we can go down the center of the map, we're going to allow for ourselves to get a couple of shots into different areas. We do need to be careful to the right hand side of where we are right now on top of the dunes, as we can get hit in the side. And as I said, the side armor, yeah, it's not great, so beware of that. We go for a little shot on the T-37 there as he's crossing, so unluckily we didn't actually manage to hit, but this game was quite a close one in the end. Well, you'll see exactly what happens in the end of the game, but we'll probably keep these kind of short and sweet. I don't want to show you too many gameplay opportunities. Basically, this was like one of the ones where it kind of has everything that you need to know about the tank. But as you can see, we're missing shots here. We're not fully aimed, but it should be hitting. So you can't just snapshot with these tanks, whilst on the move. Even if you slow down, the accuracy does kind of screw you sometimes. So yeah, either way, when you're dealing 330 damage, you should probably stop for at least a second or so before firing to make sure you've got the best chances of actually hitting. Do not go RBRTing people with this tank. You're probably not going to hit. You're going to deal less damage, and then you're going to be like, this tank's not fun. Well, it is if you, play the game how it's intended. Now, the one bane of my existence is just what happened right there. Artillery. Artillery, as with all super heavies in the game, is the bane of their existence. And so taking damage from artillery absolutely sucks a massive sausage. And we really do not want to be taking artillery hits in this. It doesn't have good side armor, which means the explosions that hit us in the side are going to deal a lot of damage. And we lost, nearly 300 damage there to the artillery. It's a GW Panther, the tier 7 artillery, which is pretty devastating as it is. But you can see we're leading our shot there. We hit the engine deck of the Panther, and we actually pen with both of our rounds, which is nice. And now we've got the Panther as well over there. So at this point, we're kind of thinking like, right, I'm in a bit of a slow heavy. I don't really have anywhere I can side scrape. Their enemy heavy tanks haven't come down into the middle. So it's really now just picking apart what we can see, whilst also maintaining a bit of awareness against the artillery, because he's going to be coming no matter what. And there you go, we get hit in the front, directly in the front of the tank, still losing 230 damage. So we're basically half healthed by the artillery at the beginning of the game. Yes, even in a fun tank, you do get screwed by artillery. Doesn't matter what you play, you can be screwed. And of course, the speed does not help that. So there you go. Even I get hit by artillery all of the time, actually. Just as much as you guys do. In fact, probably more. Because, I'm always at the front pretty much in all of the games. And artillery doesn't stop camping like they say it does. It actually just stops the people who are spotted first, which are always the people at the front of your game. Surprise, surprise. Not so fun. But you can usually counter them by getting behind things, but because of the size of this tank as well, yeah, trying to get behind things, it's not always easy. And even if you do try and hide from artillery, a lot of the times it screws your games anyway, because of the fact you're hiding from artillery and not playing the game as it's, trying to actually deal damage to tanks. Now, the game has gone pretty well. I mean, I haven't done a huge amount. I've done 970 damage, which is basically 3 shots with this tank. So, yeah, nothing spectacular at this point. But the enemy team have a much better positional advantage, because our team have decided that we're going to all throw ourselves down the flanks into the open areas. And there's quite a few TDs on their team. There's 3, in fact. And so I'm going to make another misplay here, just so that you guys see I make misplays. But we're trying to get damage on this little VK. Can we hit a shot? Yes, we can. We hit him with the main armament of the vehicle, dealing 345 damage, bringing us up to 1300. So we've already got a fire for effect. That's okay. Perfect. Fire for effect. We're aiming for that double the amount of damage as hit points is what I always aim for as like a bare minimum in my games. If I don't do that, I think, yeah, I've had a bad game. But that's just because of experience, I suppose, compared to, people who've been playing the game brand new. If you can get, you know, the same amount of damage as you've received in the game, perfect, that's awesome. But for me, because I've spent way too long, that's what we aim for in almost all of the games, is at least double the damage that we ever receive in the game. And now you're seeing me getting hit by this little IKV. It's a pain in the backside to actually hit. That tank is surprisingly a very good vehicle. It is surprisingly good. And it's one of those that is, can be a bit of a pain in the backside because it has good DPM. It is very low profile. The depression of the vehicle is also very, very good. So you can often end up getting into positions where you don't expose very much, and against a super heavy that has bad accuracy, you can avoid their shots, and that's exactly what happened there. And he even hit me with the second one as we were backing up. I wasn't expecting to get hit there, and we actually got penned even though we were somewhat angled, so that kind of sucks a little bit. But I'm trying now to spot these guys. I am very wary. If we get spotted, I'm basically pulling back down because I'm thinking the IKV is still looking at me. We moved into this spot just so that we could provide ourselves a bit of arty cover because we saw the arty moving, and I'm thinking he's probably going to be in D0. So he's moved into the little dip over there as opposed to where our tanks are exactly right now. There's two TDs behind me, so I'm a bit concerned that we are about to get launched one into the back of our tank and taken out. So I need to keep my eyes on the minimap, as that is gonna, if you literally do that in your games, you're gonna do better than most people. If you literally pay attention to your minimap and go, that tank looks like it might be able to hit me in the back if it moves up, well, you're gonna have done better than most people. So we hit this Nashorn, we actually track him with the small gun, I believe, which allows us to get some assistance damage. And, you know, I basically always put it into double shot regardless of what I'm doing, which is just using the D-pad. You put left on the D-pad and it's going to allow you to fire both at the exact same time. And that is allowing us to get double shots. Maybe one of them goes into the tracks and the other one pens. Maybe one of them actually pens and the other one bounces, or vice versa, or, you know, you're able to just double track someone. It's possible. Now, both rounds don't land at the same time. They have different shell velocities. I'm going for this Sturmpanzer there. We actually hit him. Lovely. Perfect. We're going to help out our teammate there, who is looking like he's going to get YOLO'd by the Sturmpanzer. But our teammate can hopefully get rid of that Sturmpanzer, and he does. Perfect. That means that we don't have to worry as much from behind. But at this point, I'm kind of thinking, where is this little pesky light tank going to have snuck off to? So we kind of poke here. I'm seeing whether or not he actually is there. And then we back up again. I don't want to sit in the same spot because maybe he's in a bush and maybe he spots us, or he moves into a bush and then spots us. So it's all about keeping the opponents guessing all of the time, pretty much. You know, making it as unpredictable as possible. That's what's also going to make you a better player as well. And by no means am I the best at doing any of these sorts of things, but it definitely does help you out. Now, rather than pushing over there, both of them are potentially able to hit me there. And also I'm thinking the artillery is probably going to go for me if I'm the only one spotted who just spotted those guys. So we pull back down the hill. I go again just to see if we can spot them. They've obviously moved back down the other side of the hill. And then it's just waiting game. And this is the painful experience of when you're playing in a super heavy. If your team are very, very passive, you can't make those push plays. You can't flank, you can't change your position, and you basically have to rely on your team pushing up and you just basically holding the angle to try and remove some of the tanks out of the game. This one, yeah, I mean, if I was in a faster tank, I probably would push up to the hill directly next to these guys, because we probably could get there without taking any damaging hits, and so that would be perfect. In this tank, probably not going to happen, surprisingly, because we are so slow. Now, the good play would be to push up to the hill and keep these guys spotted all of the time. Often when people are constantly spotted or getting spotted, they make silly mistakes, like trying to push over to finish the tank that's keeping them spotted, rather than dealing with the guys at the back, who are going to be the ones that are actually going to take you out. And a lot of the time, even if you are the guy who's furthest forward, spotting people, you can often get in those 1 or 2 shots where the people overexpose themselves. Maybe they YOLO you, and then they end up getting just taken out because YOLOing someone over the top of a hill against their entire team tends to be a bad idea. Don't go doing that if you play a light tank. It doesn't work. But I'm kind of getting a bit fed up here. I'm looking at my teammate. I'm going, there we've got an IKV on full health. We've got another TD over in the back, like top left of the map. I'm thinking, like, we need to push. We need to do something. Otherwise, this game is going to drag on for 4 minutes and 42 seconds. And I don't want to be sat here for 4 minutes and 42 seconds when the majority of their tanks are on low health anyway. So, yeah, I'm thinking, right, what can we do here? Well, I know that there's a light tank. I know that the light tank was over on the right side. I know that the artillery moved up and he's probably in D0. So knowing that, we can maybe reposition and be arty safe if we do get spotted. We've got to think about, okay, we've got what is it? It's the Chinese WZ tank destroyer who's on the bottom right hand side. And so he's going to be able to support me if someone comes up from behind me. But is he going to be able to spot them before they take me out? Probably not. So let's actually turn around and predict that maybe someone is going to be coming from behind me, and it's probably going to be the light tank or the heavy tank that hasn't been spotted, because there's a VK in the center with the IKV, and there's also another heavy tank. And we get spotted. It's the light tank. It's the AMX. He's moved into the center. We actually auto-aim that one because I think that he would have probably gone behind cover by the time it took me to aim and then center and then fire. So that's where auto-aim can come in good, is when someone's stuck stationary and they're not moving, they're not like mid-movement or anything like that. If they were mid-movement, I would aim in and then I'd fire. But because he was stationary, sat in the middle, probably trying to spot and then didn't realize that I was here, we can get in that auto aim pretty reliably. Obviously we could have missed and that would have been a pain, but we didn't, and odds were we weren't going to miss a stationary target when we weren't moving at the same time, and the accuracy was already pretty good because of the bloom being low. So that brings us up to 2.2k, but we still got ourselves 2 heavy tanks. One of them is a Tiger P that I don't know where he is, so he could be anywhere. We've got the IKV, which is a one-shot. We've got the VK, which also I believe is a one-shot. And we go for the IKV, and yes, we get him out of the game. That's probably the game winner right there. The IKV is probably the one that could potentially have screwed our entire team over if he'd repositioned over into like C0 and sat just undetected farming our team as they pushed up against the heavies. That probably would have been what would have happened. Obviously, that's just my own interpretation of what could have happened, but luckily he's out of the game and he's gone. We then spot the VK, but knowing me, I'm thinking, okay, this artillery's already gone for me twice in the game. I'm a slow moving target. I really want to get a shot on the VK, but it's not worth me getting taken out. And there we go. The artillery did go for me. He missed, and we back down over to here, which isn't the worst place anyway, because now we can push up and hopefully get a shot on this Tiger P, who sat in the middle of the top right, like in between the 2 hills or mountains. And so let's see if we can get a shot. I know that we can from this location, but because of the accuracy, it's going to be a bit difficult to reliably hit that from this sort of distance. It should be about 420 meters away, so it is quite far. So let's see if we can hit the cupola. We stop here. We're fully aiming. We're going for the cupola. The Tiger P starts moving. Not ideal. We find him stationary, we fire, and it hits the very well angled bit of the cupola, like right over to one side, so we don't end up penning. And then the Tiger P goes and shows his turret directly to us, but we weren't reloaded. And then I ping to my teammate, the artillery is there, right as he gets spotted exactly where I thought he was the entire game, and there he's gone. The WZ finishes off the game. We do 2.4 thousand damage with 500 assist, which for a tier 6 it's okay. It's nothing spectacular. A spectacular game would be about 4k, and that's perfectly it is an option with this tank. You can 100% do that. It's just a little bit more conditional based as to how the game plays, what the tier is. Ideally, a tier 7 game is better for your damage because there's a lot more health in the game. So dealing more damage in a tier 7 is like the optimal game that you can get into because a lot of the tier 7s don't have that much armor in the first place, even the heavies and super heavies, where 223mm of pen is more than enough to deal with them. And you're dealing 330 damage per shot, so you only have to really get in 12 shots over the course of the entire game to do 4k, which might not sound like a lot, it is a lot, but at the same time, that is like the spectacular game. For most games, you only really have to hit 6 shots, and you're going to be able to deal 2,000 damage. What I used to do when I was trying to learn the game and be better was, right, how can I have got a extra shot in that game? How could I have changed that game and been able to get an extra 2 shots of damage? What could I have done to get that extra shot of damage into my games? And the more and more you think about it, the more and more you change how you play to get that extra shot or the extra 2 shots or the extra 3 shots, and you manage to, you know, think about those things and use those in the next games that you play. Well, surprisingly enough, when you think about them, you probably end up starting getting that extra shot or the extra 2 shots, and then you think, oh, I could have done something extra there after you've already learnt all of those other things that you could have done, and then you get another extra shot, and then your average damage starts going up, your win rate goes up, and yeah, that's kind of something a bit tangential to the video, but I thought it was useful maybe for some people to have something to focus on. Don't focus on the damage numbers, focus on the damage pens that you're actually getting in the game. If you focus on that, damage comes alongside it, and it feels less disappointing when you don't manage to get, you know, the damage total that you wanted. It's just like, oh, I didn't quite get as many pens as I needed to, you know, what I wanted or whatever. But this tank, is it worth getting? Well, it really comes down to, do you want something a bit fun, a bit different, a bit novel, and something that is pretty good in a lot of situations, but also pretty bad in a lot of situations. It's like a counter. Like, there are a lot of things that are bad about the tank, but there's also a lot of things that are fun and good about the tank. So you're not going to be an overpowered tank in every position that you go to. It is not a tank that is going to be easily able to dominate games like the Hellcat 105 or the Hellcat or the you know, the Turan, as it was previous to all of the changes and updates and everything. You know, it isn't that tank, but it is a tech tree tank that is fun, and I can't thank Wargaming enough for bringing in this line. I really do enjoy these sorts of tanks that are a bit different and offer something new that we haven't yet seen before, and I think that this has done it really well. And it's a tech tree tank. You don't have to pay for it, you just have to grind it out, and I think it is 100% worth grinding out if you enjoy these sorts of vehicles, or you want something new, novel, and something fun to play. 100%. But with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like it, and of course you can subscribe down below. We'll be doing loads more videos in the upcoming weeks. I've got quite a few videos already done, which are based on different playstyles on tanks and twists on tanks that you probably have already played but didn't realise can be played in different ways. So yeah, stay tuned for those. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.